evening, everyone. Welcome to the workshop session, January 7th, 6 p.m. Roll call. I heard from Nicole and I heard from Jody, and they are officially excused. Public input. Anybody from the comments wishing to speak? Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
It's not on your sketch here, but I just want to know about, she's just going to say we're on TV, but realistically, we're not on TV. We're on YouTube, right? How come we can't get on TV? Because a lot of people don't have YouTube, and we'd like to be able to follow what's going on here at this council. So what's the reason why we can't have it on TV? So,
well,
okay.
I will, generally we don't allow.
I know,
That's
so.
excellent. Dennis, did you try to touch base on that one?
Mayor and Council, and those in the audience, we've heard a lot of concerns about not having it on the cable system, and the indication that we're getting from the IT side is we have all of the equipment in place here in the building to broadcast it out to the cable service. There is an issue on the cable side after it leaves this building that the feed is not going out the way it needs to. We're not getting the sound out the way we need to. And the feeling was, if it's going to be broadcast by video only, it's not worth it to even send it out. And so at this point, we haven't got any good response from Spectrum about any fixes that they have. They've actually pulled out a lot of their techs that were in the area. And at this point, we're going to continue broadcasting it onto YouTube, where we know we have video and sound that the public can get to. We know that's not a fix-all for everybody that is used to seeing it on cable, but that's right now is the best we can do.
Well, I believe that other towns have it on TV. That's what's getting me right now. So if they can have it, why can't we have it? You know, is there anybody that we can follow up with, or
We've been working with the cable company and like I said, our IT system.
So it's Spectrum that we need to. Geez. I'd like to follow up on it.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, good.
Here's the first follow-up right now.
Here's the first follow-up.
Here's the first one.
Doesn't it,
Is the PA system working? I can't hear you.
there's no PA system.
Oh, well, your microphones. No?
That's basically to broadcast it out to
Oh, that's for recording.
quote-unquote TV.
Okay, sorry.
Doesn't it relate to the franchise agreement and what these cable companies are required to provide under this agreement?
That is an element of the franchise agreement. Right.
So under the new agreement, they're not going to be required to provide that cable channel?
With recent FCC decisions that have been handed down, the cable company providers, if cities say we want a PEG channel, then we have to deduct that value from any franchise fee that we may be charging the company. The FCC has designated that a maximum that we can charge the cable companies for their services in our community is 5%. And in the past, we've been doing 5% plus a PEG channel plus cable channels services for free within multiple public buildings. And what the FCC has recently handed down is that any value of other products that we're being given have to be deducted from any franchise fees that we're charging. At this point, we have not finalized a new franchise agreement with the cable company because we're still working through a lot of the court cases, not necessarily that we're directly involved with, but waiting to see how some of this plays out because of legislation that the states adopted compared to regulations that the FCC are dictating.
Okay.
So I guess our options as counselors would be to tell the cable company to fix it. We're not going to let you broadcast in cable.
But we'd have to look at the implications of that, but that's
Yeah.
right.
I think the moral of that question is, what do? We call Spectrum, guys, it's not working, and basically pound sand. Because they know we can't do it. Milo's right. How the heck can other towns do it? During a football game, usually the visiting team comes, steals the home team mascot and steals it. Maybe we ought to go on a raid and grab their equipment. Because their equipment seems to work. Ours doesn't, for some reason. I find it very frustrating, I do, but look, what other problems can you have? There's no other, I mean, there's a million problems. I think. Yes, Wilford?
Seeing it's a workshop session, can we speak right from our chair area here?
No, Wilford, you have to grab the microphone. We're limited, we're just arguing over people being able to hear you.
Would you like me to help you up there and hold it?
Now, we're talking about our contract with Spectrum, right?
Yes.
And the reason that we're having a little problem here. Well, I've been doing a little study on Spectrum and what they're doing with other towns, and they don't have a simple prime contract for everybody. Everybody's working it different. So I think what has to happen here is management from each town has to get together, and they've got to come up with a solution for this, because Spectrum is actually doing what they want. They're being challenged right now by Camden on a percentage basis. They give Camden, say, I'll just pull a figure out of the air, they give them 5% of the profits, okay? But the Camden manager said, what's 5% of what? You know, we don't know what they're making for profits. They haven't they asked for it and they couldn't give it to them. So I don't know if there's a problem there or what, but it seems though they should have a standard contract for every town. So everybody is used the same and everybody has to accept the same, you know. Then we wouldn't be running into this problem because we don't know if we're getting screwed or not, really. You know, they seem to be naming their own way, and they are a hard company to deal with. I know since they've taken over, and even in their billing, they've been very careful to keep billing through Time Warner. There is a problem there. So I think that's the solution, because you'll always have a problem with Spectrum. If you got a problem now here, just get them to have a representative come in or a serviceman come in and fix it, period, and be done with it, okay? That's about the only thing you can do. Otherwise than that, everybody's got to get their heads together with the other towns and force them to come up with a contract that's amiable to everybody, every town, so everybody gets the same break. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Wilford.
You're welcome.
You know what we need on the next agenda item? It just reminded me. We need to have something that reminds me to tell people, to remind people to turn off the cell phone.
No problem.
You remind me?
I might make you a thing to put up there, yeah. No problem.
Right here. Some little brochure or something. That would work great. Okay. Anybody else want to speak from the audience? Thank you. Number 3, workshop. This is what it's all about. The first item is the definition of economic development. I come out of the woods the other day, got on the internet, and here's a message from our city manager, and it's called, what was it called? Good to know. And I says, what the heck is this? No one told me we were doing something like this. So I took to reading it. Looks pretty good, huh? Read. And I got about halfway through it and I go, there's something funny about this. And then it occurred to me, this is the director's report that we've been getting every couple weeks, where all the department heads get together with the manager and then he relays to us what is taking place throughout the city. Here's how we used to get it. See, black lines, all kind of the same. To be perfectly frank, and I hate to admit it, I might not have read it all. I would pick out the highlights of the subjects so that were the hot topic of that month. And I would study them. Once again, there's so many subjects, you can't keep up with them. But as I got reading through this, I actually read the whole thing because I was enjoying it. Now you're saying to yourself, boy, when he calls himself the simple farmer, he's not kidding. He's really a simple type of guy. And you're saying, why would that get him so excited? Somewheres along the way, somebody must have looked at this and said to themselves, you know, there must be a better way to do it. Before the first keystroke was set on the computer, you had to acknowledge that the way we've been doing it in the past, the way we're currently doing it now, there just might be a better way. And that's what got me excited. The fact that we can acknowledge, not that there's anything wrong with this way, but there might be a better way. I apply that concept to economic development. Are we happy with how we're economically developing this town? Seems like it's the same way we've done it since Loring Air Force Base closed. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm just going to say, are we happy with the results? I am not happy with the results. Because every darn time we sit down at a budget process, we're spending all our time worrying about or debating the expense side of the budget. We don't spend enough, we don't spend any time on the revenue side of the budget. We might spend a little bit of time on how much we're going to charge people to come in and get a marriage license or something like that. No, that's not the kind of income we're looking for. We're looking for the kind of income that doesn't cost those of us that are already here more money. There's a line item called city valuation, and to it you put on the tax base to it, and that's where it grows. I want to look at economic development from the standpoint, there's many ways you can look at economic development. I'd like to look at economic development from the standpoint of how do we grow that line on the city budget? We'll bring in additional tax dollars outside of those, well, unless you build a garage or something, to help us all grow. So, if you're willing to look at the possibilities that we ought to see if there's a better way of doing it, if you're looking at the possibilities of the goal being how do we increase that line, and because I've asked for 2 years, what is the definition of economic development, and I have not got an answer yet. I've had attempts, but I'm going to tell you, it's not clear to me what it is yet. I have taken it upon myself to put a definition on the table for discussion. How come nobody's got pens and pencils in hand? No, I'm just kidding.
Because I can rewatch it on YouTube.
Definition of economic development is the direct investment of time and money into increasing Caribou's taxable valuation. Period. Key is direct investment. Another key is increasing taxable valuation. You'll hear people say, Thursday on Sweden Street is economic development. Under this definition, I'm gonna say it's not. It's community development. Community development can turn into economic development, I will not deny that, but we have to start off with the fact that it's community development. I would like to say that a homeowner builds a single car garage, costs $10,000, and because of the formulas and everything we do, we're going to increase your taxes by your value of your house went up $5,000. I'm just picking numbers, but you get the gist. That building of a garage is economic development. The building of a house can be economic development. Under this definition, if you build that garage and you get a 25-year TIF and don't have to pay taxes on that garage, it is not economic development. It's got to be a direct increase to the valuation of our community. I'm looking for a definition. I'm looking for a definition that can be just, we're a small group. This is not a proclamation, and we're not trying to put it in the charter. But if we're going to go through the process of looking at economic development in a different way, and those people that want to participate, I would hope they would look at it from the goal and standpoint of increasing the valuation of our taxable base. It's how we pay the bills. Willing to entertain any thought processes on this thing. Dave?
I see nothing wrong with the way you described it. I'm okay with that. Doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
Definitions that are simple are generally the best ones.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If, I don't know, to me, there's a fine line between community development and economic development, I think. And I think having events, not so much like Thursdays on Sweden or whatever, I'd say like, maybe like the marathon. If you could get one person that attends the marathon from downstate to think about relocating here, that would eventually turn into economic development. So it would be a feeder for it, but I'm not sure if that's the right wording for it. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I am not saying don't do community development. I am not saying don't do the marathon. And when that person that ran the marathon comes here and buys a house, then it becomes economic development. You need to invest in community development. I have no qualms about that. But if you take what we do in this community, and if you were to break it down with this definition, and actually make a list of community development projects and economic development projects, you will find we have a lot of community development projects. We don't have hardly any economic development projects.
But we do have some.
I'm not saying we don't have any.
The snowmobile program is one of those you envision for economic development, because a lot of houses have been purchased in Caribou, marginal homes by people from away that want to come up and spend a weekend up here. So they buy a house.
It's just like the marathon then.
That's right.
I have no problem, and once again, I have no problem in supporting the snowmobile clubs. That's not, but knowing that at the time that you give the snowmobile club that money, it's still community development because it hasn't increased the taxation. And by doing this exercise, I'm hoping people will say, I'd like to get involved, but I want to be involved over here on the economic development side. Not get it. I want to, I'm not interested in tearing this part down. I'm interested in building the economic part up. We can argue about expenses all day in this town. It's never gonna go away. But we've got to also work equally as hard as income coming in. Growth, we gotta work on it. And we're just not growing for what we think we want for services. And we never argue, we only debate on this council. But we're always debating cut. Wouldn't it be great to come in and say, gee, we got some extra money, where can we spend it?
When was the last time that Caribou had an economic development officer? It's been a while. Do you know, Dennis?
Somebody with that official designation.
Official designation that actually brought in either businesses or homes self-built or something. I mean, in a way, I think code enforcement is a little bit, code enforcement doesn't promote. They help the people once they're here and asking questions, but like I know, like Presque Isle, they just announced that they hired an economic development officer.
Right. So we don't have anybody with that official title right now, but it is being handled. I know Ken works continually with existing businesses and fielding people that are coming in saying they want to do this or that. Christina is always, every week, is talking with existing business owners. How can we help you expand? What can we do to help you out? It's right now it's not only in one person's hands, but there are multiple
More
people
people
doing it.
than one people.
Right.
But that's what I wanted to know. Because,
Yes.
So they're actively out there looking and helping.
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that 2 businesses closed this past week in Caribou?
This week,
Well, since the first year.
I was not.
Does the city council also know that within the next 5 years, there's potentially 25 businesses that will be closing in Caribou that have no succession plan? So I mean, and that's where I think not only new economic development, but somewhere if that officer or that person went around and talked to businesses and targeted businesses that may be closing in the near future because they have no succession plan and say, geez, is there a way that if we help you, can we market your business for sale as an ongoing business and someone move into here to keep it going? I think, that's a big item right there that should be looked at, because bringing new businesses in, but by losing the base you have, you're losing all that revenue.
And I would say Christina's been very active with a lot of small businesses, and I'd say she has an even greater pulse on that than I do. But
I make a lot of cold calls too,
Good.
just random, trying to see if the different businesses are interested. Label Shop or Rennie's. I have a list that I hound a few of them, but nothing to deliver to you yet. I mean, nothing's been positive. No one's signed on the dotted line. But talking to existing businesses, talking to new people. I'm not sure. I mean, we can talk later maybe about the 25 different ones that you're talking about, but there's a big movement right now to connect people in trades with people that want to retire. So yeah, I'm open. I am open to ideas and whatever you think might work. It's a tough market, and moving here from the fastest growing area of the country to one of the slowest has been kind of an adjustment too, and seeing how different things happen. But all ideas, I will hear them.
But I know that was one of the priorities of the council, if I may, Mayor, was that we go out and we're actually in existing businesses every month, at least every month, finding out what their concerns are, what their needs are. And I do that in addition to Christina and Ken.
I did too today.
And as for the last time you had an economic development, I believe it was the end of 2012. Was the position was eliminated and reorganized under that next city manager. And I can't see who Paul's last name is. I can't see who he is. Right in the notes here.
Paul Powers.
Paul Powers, okay. Okay, thank you.
Doug.
I'd like to read a letter I wrote on the topic in 2008, and when I was on the council. And it was just my opinion again, but the letter I sent to the Rustic Republican was headed, Economic Development, what does it mean to you? Here's what it means to me. The efforts put forward to induce, encourage, stimulate, and support business growth within our community, which in turn creates increased living standards. We all realize the driving force or backbone of any community is small business, and with business growth will come new housing starts, new citizens, along with increased tax dollars. Some folks feel that Caribou is now a bedroom community, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I personally have not given up on Caribou being a business community as well. Some folks feel that we are destined to be a government service center, and maybe someday we might just be. But currently I see Caribou as a viable business community. Government service centers are fine, but remember, they are at the mercy of the very government that put them into a community, and they can be plucked out as quickly as they were put here. Now I realize talk is cheap. It takes money to buy a jug, and my jug money's invested right here in Caribou in the form of a business. So when I sit through a budget workshop, and the only budget the majority is willing to cut is the CCC&I, which is Caribou Economic Development. It's the Caribou's Economic Development arm, the very entity tasked with the thankless job of trying to expand the business base in Caribou. It leads me to wonder if the majority understands business at all. Why would anybody with business common sense cut our only link that's dedicated to Caribou's business expansion and growth, and not cut a dime of the city's municipal departments' annual budgets, the very budgets that create the majority of the tax burden? Now some feel having wellness centers and children's museums and performing arts centers are necessary in order to grow a community, but I personally disagree. These places complement a community and are nice to have, but they do not pay the bills. If times were good and money was abundant commodity within our community, then even I would say let's splurge a little on ourselves. But in my business eye, I don't see an abundance of anything right now. Times are tough, and I believe it's going to get worse before we start to see better economic times again. With that being said, I ask you as prudent taxpayers, should we continue to splurge on feel-good community things, or should we redirect these types of expenditures into an all-out assault on economic development for the city of Caribou through our economic arm, CCC&I? We're not going to get economic growth in these very competitive industries unless we fully fund it. Communities across the U.S. are starving for economic growth. We as a community have to give people a reason to start a business in Caribou or to move an existing business here. And in my experience, it's going to take a financial edge along with a simple and easy procedure in dealing with the city office. So where do you, the taxpayer, think your money's better spent? In more inflated municipal growth, or in the private sector through business growth? In closing, if you think the feel-good things, if you think the feel-good things are the way to grow the community, then I would encourage you to go to the Caribou High School and speak to the 2008 graduating class and explain to them why they should stay here in Caribou. Is it because we have the feel-good amenities, or is it because we are a nice bedroom community? If we as a community cannot offer good jobs, decent pay, healthcare benefits for these or future graduates to stay here and start a family, a business, or build a home and grow, then they'll naturally migrate where they can get what they need. That was in 2008. I mean, yeah, there was some political tone in there because of the times of 2008, but I think it was pretty much spot on that what we need to do. And I'm sure you guys know too that I question having an economic developer dedicated, but as long as we can manage the investment and tie that to an outcome growth, as I said back in those days, we had one that $80-some thousand annually, and he had a black book with a lot of names in it. That's an expensive black book. So I'm on board to look at this and be able to find something there, but we got to be able to manage it, I guess is what I'm saying in short, to make sure we're getting something.
Wilford had his hand up
Can you
first.
just define the CCC&I before Wilford goes? I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, Caribou,
Of commerce and industry.
yeah, Caribou Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Sorry, Wilford. Your turn.
I just want to clear up a little confusion. I think I asked a little while ago if I could speak from my chair, or the area of my chair, and I was told that I have to. Am I the only one that can walk to the podium?
That's a good one,
Everybody
Wilford.
that spoke since I spoke there sat in their chair. Now, we're talking about economic development.
Have I ever
Let
told
me
you,
give you my-
have I ever told
let me
you
give you my
how
piece.
much my relationship with you has meant to me? Have I ever told you?
Don't tell me. Please. Take too long. Look, we've got the problem with what we have right now is economic development. I have to agree with that. But before you have economic development, you have to have economic stability. We do not have that right now. We've lost all that stability. When Loring Air Force Base first came up here, they created a big problem for it by bringing a lot of people in, expanding their footprint, and bringing in a lot of money into the area that everybody depended on. Before that, we had a large farming industry. We had a large woods industry, a lot of mills. We've lost all that. The farming industry is still here, but it's not putting in the money into the individuals that it used to. Because they've got equipment now that takes the place of a multitude of individuals. So that part of the economic development is falling behind, and we haven't picked up on something that would take its place. It's kind of, what we've got to look at is what we've got in the area to offer. If you want to know the difference between heaven and hell, move to Caribou, Maine. It's heaven in the summertime, it's hell in the wintertime. Now, can we capitulate on that? Is there anything that the snow can attract people with the snow? And there is. Some people like the snowmobile. There's, personally, I hate snow, but there's some people that love it. Summertime attracts a lot of people, a lot of travelers. We don't do enough to advertise. You look in all the magazines that advertise economic development, and this is recreation type and travel type of economic development. You never see much about the state of Maine other than the coast. You never see much about northern Maine. You might see one picture of somebody going down a stream in a canoe, and that's about it. You don't have the full picture of it. And that's all we've got up here. No industry is going to come here and stay here unless it has to do with farming and wood. Because we've got the largest expanse of forested area, uninhabited forested area east of the Mississippi River. And it's not reacting well right now. So that's hurting us, and we've got to come up with something else to bring in the dollars. So I think economic development is sort of a catch-22 situation. Is very subjective on how people look at economic development. When I get up in the morning, that's economic development, because I'm going to get up and I'm going to go out and do something to make a living. Okay, that's economic development. Everything you do is economic development. If I get up in the morning and I feel sore all over, I take an aspirin. That's economic development. I bought an aspirin. Okay, so anything you do, but we got to come up with some. We got to look at the area and see what it's got to offer. I mean, people come here and they only stay a few years and then they leave. And it isn't everybody that can live like an Eskimo like we do.
Thank you, Wilford.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Dave?
I'm going to be a lot briefer than Wilford, but he touched on something. And just to emphasize what economic development is, right now, University of Maine at Orono is working with nanoparticles that are derived from wood fiber. You know, they're making panels out of wood that are stronger than steel because they've broken down the molecular structure of wood, and they're doing these phenomenal things. An economic developer for the city of Caribou would take time to probably go down once a month and touch base with those folks, and we could probably partner with them to come up with something that's innovative, something that's going to happen 2-3 years down the road as technology evolves. An economic development person in Caribou cannot focus on 10, 15 things like, you know, Ken and young lady, Christine. Sorry, chemo brain, I have to think hard.
Oh, it's Alzheimer's.
Old age. But we've got to keep it simple, and you have to stay focused, and you've got to be thinking down the road. You're not going to have a miracle happen overnight, but you can line your ducks up. And that's basically what you've been advocating, and that's what Doug's been saying. So I'm just telling you that it's a full-time job.
Okay?
I'm going to say something a minute ago.
You?
Nope, I'm good.
Oh,
You're good?
Oh,
Okay.
nope, not yet.
Joan, you have any?
Well, I think in a community, amenities are important. I think that people look at the amenities when they want to move here. And I think that if you have them, it's going to be a more attractive community than when you don't. There's one thing that's I thought had gone away, and it hasn't. When I was growing up for years and years, back in the 60s, back in the 70s, we had a stigma in this town. And the stigma was certain people were keeping out businesses. Certain people don't allow businesses to come in. I heard it over and over. I don't want to go to Caribou because I tried to open a business and certain people are going to stop me. And this came from other people in the area. They would say that, and nope, we're going to get stopped. I thought it had gone away. And the other day, somebody said the same thing to me. And I think if we could find a way to make sure that people realize that that's not true, and I don't believe ever has been, but it just festers and festers, and they have I can't remember the Facebook page, but the other day I was reading hundreds of postings on Facebook about, the question was, what would it take for you to come back to Caribou? And it was unreal what was posted there, and I never will because it's dead, or so and so you can't get anywhere, you can't get jobs. We have jobs. we do. And I think that we need to market ourselves to begin with as being, we want you here. We're not going to push you away. We need to open up. There was a time when it was very difficult to work with the code enforcement in town, and that's eased up. And I think that we need to open the doors of the city and welcome them in and say, come on in, we want to help you. And it's not, some of these rumors or stories that you hear are not true. And the stigma is still there. I couldn't believe it. The other day I had that brought up to me, so just a thought.
Did you challenge them?
I did. Oh, yes. I absolutely did. But sometimes they have it in their mind and you're not going to change it.
Could be jealousy.
Oh, it's a lot of things, and it is. It's a lot of things. Yeah, and it could stem from rumors that have surfaced for years and years and years and just kept on going. And, but...
I know, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just speak to something Joan said, just to agree with her? As somebody who did decide I want to come back, and I think that's the key, right? I mean, there's many people we all went to high school with that don't live here, and when you talk to them and ask them, well, why don't you want to move back? And there's always kind of the list of excuses, but the bottom line is they don't want to, for whatever whatever the reason is, right? Good, bad, stuff we can control here, and stuff you can't. At the end of the day, it's they don't want to. I wanted to. I certainly don't regret it. But to also hit on something you also said, it's the marketing part of it. Mm-hmm. And you can market it to people who want to be here, who want what we have to offer, that we have the 4 distinct seasons, which not every place has, or that they have one of 2 distinct seasons, the one good one, which is winter, for winter sports, or the one good one that they see is the summer, which is a better summer than where they live. You know, the reverse snowbird type idea. So we've got more than one way, I think, to even market the environment here. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Okay, Jay.
I guess,
Go ahead.
I guess my initial thought is the very beginning where we talked about not being able to broadcast over the TV. It's, to me, a symptom of the bigger problem. And I think Caribou can spend a lot of money and time marketing Caribou, but is that really the role of the city council, when we really maybe ought to be looking at getting our infrastructure in place? And I think what Doug said, kind of resonates with me a little bit in that, do we have sufficient broadband to bring young engineers in that want to work out of their home? Do we have sufficient ordinances in place that if I buy 100 acres of land in farming, then I can value add and do a storefront or something on my land, or those kind of things. Get those in place, and then at the market, say, here's what we do have, because I think that's going to set us apart from a lot of other areas. I talked to a realtor recently, and he told me, never in 1,000 years would he have thought that he was selling second homes on recreational trails to people from outside the area. It resonates. But you drive into the community, and I know Paul's going to be talking about that in a minute, you look at these blighted homes and those kind of things. My humble opinion is, let's get the infrastructure in place, let's get the impression in place so that people do want it.
Great segue into the next topic.
That's a good point.
Mark, before you do,
Go ahead, Tom.
I've heard a lot, and being the youngest member of the council, I feel like everyone's talking about my generation, why they've moved away. Yeah, well, I'm still here because fireman's in my blood. What I've heard a lot of is us versus Presque Isle, or us versus the surrounding communities, or us versus downstate. It's that, but you got to look at the bigger picture. It's us versus the world. Why would anybody want to come to Caribou, Maine? Well, our winter activities, even though Wilford doesn't like it, I like it.
Closer, I can't hear him.
Could you speak up a little bit?
I can. I can speak up. So it's basically us versus the world. It's not just us versus Presque Isle or Fort Fairfield or downstate. Why do people my age want to stay here? That's what we got to look at the solution for. I mean, we can sit here and we say it happened, this happened, that happened, and everything else. Great, it happened. Awesome, wonderful. What's the solution? So I think what Jay says as far as the infrastructure, we need to get rid of the issues pertaining to that. And there's a lot more that runs into it. In every time I come back from Fort Fairfield, I look at our sign that says certified business friendly. And it takes all I can not to hop out of my pickup, grab that sign, and go blow it up in the back 40. Because we are not. There's a lot of things that we can do as a city. Currently, we're working on the Chapter 13. I know Ken and the Planning Board have been working on it. Dennis has been working on it. Make it easier for businesses to come and do business, because it hasn't been revamped since the 80s. That's something that's gonna get done this year, and it's gonna happen. We're getting it done, and that's gonna be my goal for this year. But I think we all have a lot of things we can add, and I think we can do it, and we can get people my age back here because they love this community, all their heart and souls into it. This is where they grew up. This is home. How do we keep my friends, people I grew up with, here? And that's going to be our biggest challenge, because right now nobody wants to.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
We have,
could I just say one thing about that?
are you sure you don't want to start
No,
pacing
I won't
yourself?
start preaching.
You sure? Okay, go ahead, brief.
Look, we have all these business-friendly signs outside of Caribou, and a lot of people are looking at that negatively because they don't think we're business-friendly, but we really are. There's no question about it. We're trying our best to be business-friendly. It's just not working that way. And it doesn't work that way. You have to come up with a better mousetrap here. We've got to look at what we've got to offer in this community. I personally had chances. I was 42 or 45 years old.
Okay, come on now.
Wait, listen to me. Please listen to me. If you want people to move here, they gotta love this place. I was born and brought up here. I flew out and interviewed for jobs that you'd kill for.
Hold it. Now,
Wait
come
a
on,
minute
wrap
now.
it up, Wilford.
Wait,
Now, come
this
on.
has
We're not
something-
going
I
down
moved
memory
back
lane
here
here.
because I liked it here, okay?
Yes.
So you gotta sell what's here.
Okay. Thank you. And I think what you're saying is you'd like people to look at how things are being done. And what you're saying is, let's see if we can't make them better. That's what you're saying. Thank you, Wilford.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't think you've got it all there.
I
need more than that.
I know.
I mean,
I'm trying to
you need-
keep it as simple as I can.
I think it'd be a good idea if you establish a group in the community that does a little traveling throughout the country, and that can attract people, okay?
You're more than welcome to do it.
Well, I've been doing it for a long
Well,
time.
then, form it.
And I've stayed here. I haven't been successful at bringing anybody in, but I've stayed here myself. I've done business here, and I haven't been too successful, but hell, I made a living.
Yep.
I lived as good as anybody else in town, so I have no complaints with Caribou. But I do feel sorry for the people that are having a hard time, okay?
We sit
Taxes are killing us.
we sit on the council, And we have many variables that come at us from different angles for different reasons. And we're basically just volunteers. That's all we do. And generally, I don't know why, but generally, we're only brought in to when issues become a problem. And we're asked to solve problems. I want to try, sitting at the council, what we can do with limited resources, to get something going. With a definition of the direct investment of time and money to increase Caribou's taxable valuation. What can we do with our volunteer time from this level? It's called economic development. You can put as many fingers on that hand as you want. You want to form a group? You want to form a group? You want to form a group? And you want to go do this thing? We'll give you a certificate suitable for framing when you get it done. And we'll congratulate you. I'm looking right now at what can we do as counselors that would get us the biggest bang for our buck. And with that definition in mind, because I've heard from so many residents, Dave Wakeham was like the icing on the cake. And I mean that in a very sincere way. He did it was very polite, but very firm. We got to do something about blight in our community. We got to take something that we're having a problem with, do something with it that makes it have more valuation, which we can then tax more on. It fits the definition perfect. It gives us goals that we can accomplish here. I am not saying get rid of anything in community development. I am not saying no to any other economic development project that you or anybody else might have. I'm just saying we are considering the possibility of blight. I'm going to follow this up by saying if you think government is the answer to anything, boy, you're barking up the wrong tree with this guy. So we need the community support to do something with blight. You think we're going to do it? No way. Won't happen. We're going to try, but we need support from the community on this. And I'm looking, and we're looking for people who want to invest their volunteer time into something such as a blight committee. Oh boy, last March, I guess, this thought process was brewing, and I contacted a good friend, Paul Camping. Paul Camping has, like all of us, many attributes. I'm good, I'm not so good. One of the good ones, he's well spoken, thoughtful, willing to study, and he's retired and he's got time. So, you know, it all works out good. I asked him if he'd form a blight committee. Because like anything in this world, you think I was the first one to come up with a corn maze? You think I was the first one to come up with a miniature golf course or sell an ice cream? The wheel has already been invented. We just have to go out and find it and bring it in to fit our community. Paul went on a mission with 4 or 5 other Caribou citizens who volunteered their time. And they came up with some great research material. This coming Monday night, they will all receive certificates suitable for framing. Their work is done. We have taken that work that they've handed us. We've digested it, and we'd like to do, because there is this thing in there called We Can Do It. A 5-step plan, and it's a quick plan. They use the word quick on how to fight blight. We're going to try to follow that plan to the best of our ability, assuming we have the support of the community. This is just one finger in this thing. That's all we're doing. We're going down just one road. This isn't the catch-all. We're now going to form a committee. The committee that Paul had is done. We're now going to form a blight commission. They're going to meet 4 times. Set a rule, 4 times. And they're going to tell us what the tools are that the city needs. They're going to come back with recommendations for the tools that the city needs or would require to help us with blight. We're all sitting here with got a nice toolbox from S.W. Collins. Brand spanking new, but there isn't a darn tool in it. The toolbox has the engraved economic development right on the top. And I want to have some tools to put in it. Tools in the form of ordinances. I don't know, I suppose someone ought to look eminent domain. What's that all about? Someone lets their property run down and they're out of state, things falling in. How do we have the right to go in and clean it up so that the neighbor's property they won't become less valuable? How are we going to do this? This committee is going to, hopefully, knowing that the wheel has already been invented, we have to find those tools that have stood the time of legal precedence, tools that have been through the system, tools that will be given to us, and we'll already know what problems are going to show up. We already know where the arguments are going to come from. But I think I've talked to most of you all, and one thing or another, we're not afraid to take the arrows. So that's what our job is. The Blight Commission that I'm hoping to set at the next Monday night meeting will be, and this is because the report said it, the 5 easy steps. We need a facilitator. Said we had to hire a facilitator to run this deal. And I got good news. I got good news. We already have a facilitator.
Oh,
His name is Dennis Mark. No, his name is Dennis Marker.
Oh, okay.
Okay? He's oh no, we're paying him good money. No, we're not going to do it.
Well, you're not going to pay him any more.
No.
He's going to do that for nothing. He's going to wear another hat, right?
So I'd like to ask Dennis if he would consider taking the position. I would like to ask John Swanberg. I'd like to ask Ken Murchison. I'd like to ask Paul Camping, Penny Thompson, and Phil Sear to be on this committee to put this toolbox together. I would like to have a report come back. Council would like, the proposal will be that and the goals will be set, and I'll have it all written up for Monday night. For a report sometime the 1st of March. 1st of April, excuse me, got to give them the 1st of April, so that the council can look at it and decide what the next step is. In another week, great brains are going to be coming together, and we're going to form a land bank.
What?
Land bank. I don't know the exact name of it yet. We're going to form this identity. None of this is going to work if it's under the city. And make sure you understand this. There's nothing wrong with the people that work for this city. They can be creative, but it's the system. It's this thing we call government that just for some reason knocks the crap out of everything you're trying to do. It's just amazing to me how it works. We've got to move this stuff off of this table and put it over there and work at it. It's no different than what we do with the hospital district board. We nominate them, and they go do their thing. It's no different than what we do. CUD. We nominate them, they go do their thing. And you can go down through the list of examples of how it can be done. But if you leave it at this level, we're doomed. And I don't care who sits here. It's just, and I'm throwing mine, don't throw me in there, sitting at this table. As a private citizen, I could do a lot better job. So that will be named.
Excuse me. I have to interrupt because this is sounding more like the federal government and getting Trump out of office, okay? You said, now you established a committee to identify blight in Carroll, okay? And before you started, you said you were volunteering your time here and all. I volunteered my time every time I come to a city council meeting to listen to you people, okay? When that door Mark, me and you are the best friends in the world, okay? When that door closes, friendship doesn't mean a thing.
And you're proving it tonight.
Okay, that's right.
And you're proving it tonight.
Now, you said one thing. You said a couple things that were wrong.
And you're gonna tell me why?
No, I'm not gonna say anything that'll insult you or anything, but I think it's because you just don't know. You established this committee to look at blight in the community, and I could have gone around the community in 25 minutes and told you where all the blight was. Now, they did an exceptional job. They picked out all the places I would have been, okay? I've been fighting blight all my life in this community. I'm sitting on this, I've got a home that I built 35 years ago, sitting next to a blighted lot that I've been fighting with the council for 15 years. And they've corrected every other problem but mine. Okay? You said that you're gonna put rules in place and laws. The rules are already in place to take care of blight in Caribou. Read the code book. It's like what I said about the federal government was this sounded like the federal government. Every representative we have in Washington is saying we gotta live by the Constitution. The minute that guy opens his mouth, I know he's never read the Constitution, okay? And you proved it tonight because you said you're gonna come up with a way and some rules to take care of it. They're already in place. Read them. And
Thank you, Wilford.
okay?
Thank you.
Now, I don't mean to say that you don't know, you're doing a wonderful job as mayor, don't get me wrong. I mean, listen, I love everybody here.
This is why concealed
I might
weapons is
sound
so
like
hard
a-
to get.
I might sound like the
This is
enemy.
why, really, I'm
I-
serious. This is why it's hard for me to get a concealed weapons permit.
You don't need a permit.
You don't need
You
one.
don't need one anymore.
Well, it's the only saving grace here.
Well, do something about getting more people to the council meetings too. That's another thing wrong.
I can.
The only time somebody
You want
comes
me to
here
get
is
more
when they
people?
got their hand up. You can fill this place up when somebody wants to got their hands up. But you can't fill it up when you got the bunch that's complaining on the street corner.
Thanks, Wilford. So, that's the step we're gonna go through. This committee that was just, the proposed names that will come to the council for a vote next Monday night, it's just a suggestion of names. I'm willing to listen to other names. It should be kept to a short list. We do need to involve our city employees so they can go through the existing code book and pick out those tools that I can put in the toolbox. They'll do that. And any additional tools that aren't available to us that we should look at doing. And I'm looking for people who want to get on board with the land bank. I have not sought out anybody. I have not asked council for any recommendations. The definition, investment of time and money into increasing Caribou's valuation has to be the motto of the land bank group. Land bank group, unfortunately, I don't know, it's the permanent group, it's the ongoing group, and there'll be terms. I'm not sure how it's gonna be set up. I gotta read that part of the section of which Paul's committee put together. I haven't got, it's an onion, and we got through the first layer, we're just on the second layer, and we're working down to the 8th or 9th layer of the onion to when we can get something accomplished. And we're going through it, and hopefully in a methodical way that we all understand. It's all about understanding. Nothing wrong with the way I guess we're doing it now, but is there a better way to do it? And I want to explore that. Anybody got any other ideas? Come on board, give us your game plan, give us your sketch. Before we go on to item number D, which is the last item, any comments from the council? On any of this? I'm almost afraid to ask. Any comments from the audience?
Give me your list of names, please.
Item number D.
I can't speak again?
No. Let me think about that.
You just insulted a citizen of Carroll County.
Oh, wow. Yeah, really, yeah, that's a good point. Does that mean you won't talk to me?
What kind of a mayor are you?
Okay, item number D. Business friendly with Caribou's business community. Well, I should have read here, I would have phrased that just a hairball different, but anyways. I'd like to have, and this is between the council, I'd like to have a ribbon cutting ceremony for County Ag. I'd like to see how many councilors we could get out there. Shake Randy and Jerry's hand. I've got a couple of nice written words I think I've all passed out to you. Welcome them. Tell them how much we appreciate them making Caribou part of our community. That we consider them a great asset. I talked to Randy and Jerry, and they're willing to do it. It's a slow time of year for them, so the free publicity would help them a little bit. And I want to do it proper. I said 4:30 is a good time because some of us are working, and that we could show up at 4:30 at their place for a photograph. And they said they'd be more than willing. Anybody have any objections to that?
What day?
Well, we haven't picked
Oh.
a day, but just the concept. Any
Yep.
idea, any problem with the concept?
Nope.
I'd like to see us also go back with the $100 in hand that was levied against them, both for the supposed sign ordinance and then the $50, if I'm understanding correct, for not coming in and getting it beforehand. changing the plastic in a sign. I think that would go a long way, not just there. Again, it's only $100, but I think it speaks volumes, the action alone.
It's my hope that a very short time frame at one of the Caribou City Council meetings that we will eliminate that part of our fee structure where a business has to come in and pay money to put up a sign. I'm not saying they don't have to come in and get a permit, because we should be willing, if they want us to go out and make sure that they're far enough away from the road or whatever state and federal, whatever other regulations we have. If they don't want to come in and get it, don't get it, but then don't come back to me and tell us we should have told you. But to charge people money for that. Because when you advertise your business in Caribou, you're basically advertising Caribou. We want to encourage as many people advertising Caribou as possible. So, would you please coordinate it with the events coordinator? A time. No, a date. We got the time.
Yep.
A date. I am going to be gone after January 18th. Boy, it would do my heart good if I could be part of this. So if we could do it before the 18th, if you can't, I get it. But I'm going to be gone for a while.
We've got plenty of time before the 18th. I'm sure we can get something done before you leave.
I appreciate it. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, why are you gonna be gone for a little while?
Personal law.
Well, Boss in Columbia needs him.
While you
Enjoy
think,
golfing, right?
while you think winter is enjoyable up here, I have the opportunity to check out and just see Florida is a little bit. Well, I just kind of like to see what it's like.
Are you gonna do a little bit of economic development for us while you're in Florida?
I don't know.
You
Might
just
be able to
should have
expense
kept your
that
mouth
out.
shut, Mark.
No,
You
no
shouldn't
is
have
an
said
okay
anything.
answer.
Don't go someplace where they're gonna have a hurricane.
Yeah, really.
I actually visited Mom and Dad a couple years ago when they were down in Florida, a couple of years ago, 15 years ago. And there's a miniature golf course a couple of blocks over, and so Gloria and I went to it. And there's 2 holes on our farm that mimic those holes. We drew them out. We sat there and drew them out. So, in a way, you could say I did it, you know, that way. So, anyways, once again, I don't want to discourage anybody else's thought process here and how you think this kind of community should grow and develop. I just want to, this council would just like to try this little project, just to see if this is a way that we could do it. And really, look around town. There are a lot of blighted properties. It's not like there isn't that many. I don't want to discourage or run our, and this is a problem of a lot of small town rural communities that are losing population. This isn't nothing new here. It's not going to go away on itself. Hearing none? Here, oh, go ahead.
If I might really quick interject, the business-friendly signs that we have up in places, and you'll see them with other towns have them up as well. It's a state program to recognize that there are certain elements that are in place. And so,
Not necessarily business friendly. When I looked at what the criteria was back then, and personally it was a joke. Nobody spoke to any businesses in town. Nobody took the time. It was based on, you know, the city's plan and this and that. There was some, yeah, all that's been in place, so they put this blue sign up that was almost embarrassing.
How are those signs attached? Phillips bit? Nails? I'm just trying to be proactive
Yeah,
here.
chain.
Crowbar.
What we have is a sign that says we're business friendly. We're gonna look at it and see if we can make it better. That's the moral of the story.
right.
we're gonna look at it and see. Because Wilford's right. We are trying.
We are business friendly. We just
You know.
created a few rules that sort of mix things up a little bit here, so you take care of it there.
You know, this, our farm, Gonsberry Farm wouldn't be in existence. Gloria and I couldn't have pulled that off anywhere else. We really couldn't have. We only pulled it off because of the people of Aroostook County that stayed true, blue to us, when they should have given up on us a long time ago. It wasn't government that kept me afloat. It was individual people. Some are here. That took the time to stay true and blue, and through the miracle of God, we pulled it off. And I don't understand the blessing that we've gotten, because there's a lot of people that work just as hard as Gloria and I and have not been able to do it. We've got to harness that part of it. That part that's people that can somehow look at things and say, this is worth investment in. That's not fostered within government. Nothing wrong with the people, it's just the system. It's fostered out there. I hate to use this phrase, but it's true. It's fostered out there in the private sector. You've got to somehow reach and grab that aspect of it and use it for what we're trying to do. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I just add,
Second. Oh,
I had one thing.
Go ahead.
I heard you a little while ago say the only time people come in is when they got a problem. You said that a few. Well, I've been coming here a lot over the years. So at that podium. And I brought up a lot of problems, okay? Only to have to fall on deaf ears. Not saying to you guys or anything like this, I'm just saying. That's what happens. And there's a lot of people who would like to come here to these meetings, but they're wasting their time, they say, okay? Now tonight, I brought up a subject about the TV. Now let's see where that falls on. If it falls on deaf ears, if it's going to be taken care of. I brought it up before. This is not the first night I brought this up here. I brought it up at least a half a dozen times. And it's never been taken care of. But that's one of the reasons why people don't come here to put their input, because they're wasting their time. That's the comment I get from a lot of people.
Well, I remember there was a lady here in my little year ago or two, and she was very upset with the fact that lighting was poor around town, and people, and you know, and we took the time, and the administration took the time, and they do this LED lighting, and right off next council meeting, we're going to get this little committee, because now we got to go plug the loop, and it was just meant to replace those lights that were there. Now we know that we got to go and we got to add a few more. You know, and sidewalks was an issue.
Right.
You know, High Street was an issue.
It sounds
North
like
Main Street's
we're on the
an
right
issue.
track right now.
And problems.
Right.
And let's use your problem for example, Spectrum. I just can't find the tool that I need to fix the problem. I know you brought a problem. Can you? I would hope people could bring solution with it. Tell me what you want me to do.
I have no idea either. I'm not a Spectrum guy.
Well, I can threaten them. I left Spectrum and went to Hulu. I got tired of them.
Tell us what's in their contract as far as maintaining it.
Mr. Mayor, there is a motion on the table.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a motion on the table to adjourn.
Take a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Debate.